I mean, we hear a lot about mental health and about the challenges of young people's mental health as well, don't we? And for us specifically, I guess we talk about eco-anxiety, but we know it's a lot wider than that. And sort of young people in schools and sort of looking at their future, whether that's to do with environment or to do with, jobs or homes or whatever it is, you can see that there's a lot of pressure that sometimes comes through to these young people about, what is their future going to look like. I know that I was reading something there that Liz's team in Manchester were doing about mental health in schools, and we were talking about eco-anxiety, and they wanted to support each other and things like that. So it's so interesting that we come from the premise of talking about environment and making the world a better place, but actually it intersects with so many different issues that the young people are facing. What are some of the activities that actually the young people that in the schools you've worked with, what have they chosen to do? They work in groups in schools, don't they? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's been a real variation from gardening projects, from doing up their nature gardens, which might have sadly, because of COVID in the last couple of years, which may have been neglected. A mix of outdoor projects, recycling as well, raising awareness about that, and doing local litter picks. Or what else? And the school I was at yesterday, they were focusing on their canteen. So that group was really interesting because it was a small group of secondary school children, really passionate, and their ideas went off in all sorts of directions. But they started to, once they were making that list, they started to identify some links between them, and they settled on tackling the canteen. So within that, plastic waste, general waste, so food, and also tackling diet as well. So hopefully introducing some more vegetarian options, or maybe even a purely vegetarian day. So yeah, in London, the schools that I work with, I'm based in London, have mainly been kind of environmental projects. But as you touched on, Liz, Rosie and Leah, the other youth engagement officers in our team, I think they've managed to incorporate some more projects with a more social focus as well. So that's a challenge for me, because don't get me wrong, I love the projects that I do, but I kind of want a bit more variation as well. But
we let the young people decide, don't we? So exactly. I mean, it's about giving them options and letting them know what some of the other people are doing that might touch a nerve with them and might make them realise that actually they can think in a different way, and they can explore more broadly, and that they can bring in all of these different things that mean something to them and that overlap. But I'd love to pick back up on your talk about the school food. I think that's such an interesting one. It's such an important one. And, we talk about, there's so much attention on sort of people with eating disorders and young people, how they develop those and things like this. And genuinely, I think nutrition it's not taught. And so this is a real interesting way that people in schools can engage with something like nutrition and where their food comes from, genuinely not knowing about all of the air miles or those kind of things. So to pick that up, I was talking with Jess with UK Sustainable Schools Network, and she's working with some schools about some of them are reducing beef in the canteen, some of them are doing again sort of the meat-free Monday or taking meat out for a lot of things, a much more plant-based diet, which we know is good for us, it's good for the environment. But also about combining that with the work you were talking about with having like a little garden at school to be able to grow your own vegetables, I think is such a genuine revelation for so many people, for sort of a 10-year-old who's probably only ever been to a supermarket to get their food, as most of us, as all of us kind of have done. It's not unique, but, to then actually see what a carrot looks like when it's in the ground or what an onion looks like, and then to be able to cook something with it. I think that whole story and that whole journey, it must be so inspiring and just so eye-opening.
Yeah, it really is. And like, as you were just speaking, I couldn't help but smile, because I have a few schools who are partaking on that journey, and they've been so excited to plant a seed and eagerly anticipating it, waiting for it to grow. But it just reminded me another aspect of the projects that we do, where Dirt is Good values. One of them is being on a journey, and part of that is it's okay to make mistakes. So of course it'd be amazing to see whatever they plant grow, and if they're able to cook it and consume it, that'd be amazing. But it's also saying it's okay if it doesn't work this time around. We'll learn from it. We'll try and figure out what went wrong, and we'll give another go. And I think that's another key aspect of the sessions that we run, that it's okay to make mistakes, but we're on this together, and we're going to learn from it, and
And you can get a joy in the journey. You can learn so much from that journey. And yes, it's brilliant if you can get, that end result, but actually real life doesn't work like that. So I guess that's a really nice kind of gentle introduction to the concept of not everything always going to work out and go your way. It's that's a really nice, gentle way of introducing that concept and letting young people get used to the idea that things aren't always going to quite work out, but that it doesn't need to be the end of the world.